What's up, you guys? This is Devin with CenturyFX Studios, back with another video, and today we're back on our headshot series, and we're going to be talking about the camera settings. Now, like I told you in the last video, we're using the Canon 5D Mark II. This gives you as many settings as you possibly would need, and also we have a camera lens that allows you to get up to a 2.8 aperture. But with headshots, you may or may not even need a 2.8 aperture. Now, the reason why I'm talking about the aperture so much is because the aperture dictates how much focus from the front to the back of the subject that you're going to get, your depth of field. Now, you can get a shallow depth of field, which means you're at a 2.8, a 1.8 aperture, and that's to blur the background. But it all depends on what background you have and what look you're trying to go for. For example, this backdrop is white. Well, we don't need to blur much out in that background. So then you would just bump your aperture up to 5.6, 7.1, f8, maybe even f11 if you have the light power to support that aperture. Then when it comes to shutter speed, you want a shutter speed, if you're on a tripod, you want a shutter speed that, it's decent, but I want to say maybe 1/100th of a second. Don't go as low as 1/60th of a second. So you don't have image motion blur because your model moves, even though they're standing still, you're going to miss some sharpness when you zoom in. You can be like, dang, I should have done better. I should have done this. Now with this Canon 5D Mark II, you're going to have to focus and recompose. So that means you're moving the camera to use your autofocus points and get your correct composition. You want to have a shutter speed that will compensate for any camera shake while moving it, and also the camera shake when the shutter actually clicks. The camera, it's not the biggest of all deals. You just want to be able to control as much as possible. If you have a cell phone with like a 50mm lens or an extra lens that you can flip to for portrait mode, then use that. That's actually going to get you somewhere close in the ballpark of a portrait lens. And then you're going to be able to take pictures with, the right types of proportions and things of that nature. But let's go back to settings. When it comes to settings, if you're outside, that's a little bit of a different story. You might have things that are extraneous in the background that you want to blur out. You're going to have like a 3.5 aperture, 2.8. I wouldn't go any lower than 2.8 on headshots because you're trying to get that eye in focus. Remember, eye in focus. ISO is the last one that I want to get to. ISO is not all that important. You got to bump that ISO up sometimes when you're inside if your lights don't have the power to support that ISO value, because shutter speed and aperture control the look of the image as far as what's in focus and the motion blur. But ISO controls the sensitivity of the sensor, which means that if you need more sensitivity from the sensor to balance out your exposure, you're going to raise your ISO up. But the downside of that is you're going to have noise in your image. So you want to have a fast glass or a wide aperture lens, but that might be expensive. So you're going to have to weigh out your pros and cons. I can't tell you exactly what you need because I don't know your situation, your budget. But at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you compensate for all these little things, and that you want to have proportions that are correct with the right lens, right? It might be a little expensive to get the right lens that zooms in like that, but that's a part of the deal. And then you want to make sure that you can get the settings that you want so you don't have a lot of noise in your images. And you want to make sure each image is consistent from shot to shot to shot. You don't want to have all automatic mode and it going up and down and up and down. I would advise manual mode when it comes to the camera settings that you're using because you can control shot to shot to shot. You might need a meter if you like using meters, or you can use a camera's meter. You can also use constant light and outdoor light depending on what situation you're in, or you can use flashes. But you have to make sure these settings are correct so you get good focus throughout the image. I like to shoot them at f8, f11 sometimes if I have my strobe, so I can get nice focus so people can focus on the person. But also from outside, I might use 2.8, maybe even 1.8 if I have an eye-tracking autofocus camera, just to give somebody a little bit of a nicer look or a different look. You also have to think about your ending product. You have to think about where it's going to go. If I want a sassy look or a different type of look, a beauty look, I might go with a shallow depth of field. Or if I'm going to a magazine, I might have an f11, f8 aperture just to make that look like a magazine look with everything's in focus and things of that nature. It all depends on what you want to do, but at the end of the day, I'm Devin with CenturyFX Studios. Tell me if this video helped you out. Affiliate links in the description below. You got your Patreon, all these other things to help us out making this a great show, so I can make sure I do my job and supporting the people who support me, like John's over there. He's doing a great job on the camera. We got Jenny over there. She's doing her thing, and she's going to be in the next episode. So if you need any help with headshots, stay tuned to this channel and I'll help you out. Subscribe, like, comment, and I'll see you on the next video.